Live, and this is Veterans Day. This is the introduction of one of the greatest hymns ever written.
Let us all be grateful for a land so fair as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountain to the prairie to the ocean, white with hope. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Well, yes, God bless America. That's how we end every one of our shows, because we're eternally grateful. I am, that of all the places I could have been born or put, or God elected to put me in the greatest country in the history of the world, and gave me a chance to help it. I just got a pardon from the president, and I thanked him, and he sent me back a wonderful note, which is for me, and it's very, very nice. And I thanked him also, really, for pardoning all the rest of those people. You know, I pretty much, and I can't say it wasn't without his help. It was. I mean, he's been supportive 100%. But I mean, I've been able to. Well, I don't know. God gave me something. I don't know what it is. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I can't figure out how they didn't crack me, but they didn't. I don't think I ever had a moment of doubt. And it really is because I thought about what I was doing. I did sometimes question if I was right or wrong, and I would go through it. And if I was wrong, I'd make the alterations that were necessary in explaining what I was explaining. But I never deliberately misled anybody. And I did, for Donald Trump, what you're supposed to do as a lawyer for your client. And in prior eras in America, and we'd have to regard from the point of view of what we call the legacy media and the Democrats and the disloyal Americans, they all are, by the way, the disloyal Americans that were going after him, they just turned the truth around. I mean, they learned it from Karl Marx, and they learned it from Animal Farm. And I don't know if if you noticed the cycle. Whatever they do, they attribute to Trump or to Trump's people. They bribed the president of Ukraine, and they eventually accused him of doing it. And he was acquitted in the Congress. Everything they've charged him with is false, completely false. Every one of those cases, the four they brought against him, are made up. And we're going to have Ed Martin on in a short while. Yep. I think one of the most interesting of all is what they did with the electors, but we'll have Ed explain how he went through it and what he found. But the president is now threatening to sue, and he should, BBC. This is just one example. I mean, this is the BBC is owned by the British government, for which they should be eternally ashamed. They took his speech on January 6th, and right before the presidential election, that was in November 2024, they put out a clip of Trump on January 26th. And here's what they have him saying. And we'll watch it, and then I'll go through it with you. See, so you can see what they did. Deceptive liars.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you. And we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you. And we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
Now it's even more complicated than that. So here's what they put on, spliced it together, edited it together, cutting things out. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you. Now, you heard what he said, and we're going to cheer on our senators and Congress. They instead have him saying this: we're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you. And then they skip 56 minutes ahead. 56 damn minutes ahead and we fight like hell. And what he was talking about in fighting like hell was against corruption. What he actually said at the end of the speech is, we're going to go down there peacefully and patriotically. And they left out peacefully. So, as was illustrated today in the New York Post by a really, really good writer, and we do have really good writers, Brendan O'Neill, who is the chief political writer for Spiked. He writes this: in November 2024, just days before the U.S. presidential election, the program on BBC aired a shocking clip of Trump on January 6th, saying, we're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you. And we fight like hell. Only one problem: Trump never said that. The BBC was lying. It spliced together two entirely different remarks, made 54 minutes apart. This can't be a mistake, right? 54 minutes? We edit, right?
Right.
All the time. You'd have to work at this. Then go to make it look like he was marshaling the mob into a frenzy of violence so they could falsely charge him with insurrection. What Trump actually said was that people should march peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol and make your voices heard. By deleting his peacefully comment and replacing it with a comment he made almost an hour later about fighting like hell against corruption, the BBC painted him as a demonic instigator of chaos. The seriousness of this cannot be overstated. The BBC doctored the footage. It twisted the truth to serve ideological ends. These are Pravda levels of manipulation. Pravda was the news service for the Soviet Union.
Right.
They had. He also goes on to point out that BBC was forced to correct 2 stories about Gaza every single week since October 7, 2023. They've become a mouthpiece for Hamas's sickening propaganda, fueling anti-Semitism, which has led to serious violence, maybe even death in the UK. But it sold to the devil for political correctness and sacrificed its world-famous neutrality at the altar of ideology, at the altar of Marxism, Brendan.
Right.
And very shortly, and this breaks my heart. Very shortly, they're going to become an Islamic country. It'll be the dominant religion in the country.
Right.
The Church of England has fallen apart completely. As I point out, I just can't quite get the statistics, but I don't know if this is true of all of England, but certainly in the northern part of England, there are more Roman Catholics now than Church of England people.
Right, makes sense.
And eventually, Roman Catholics will take over, because when the people flee the Anglican Episcopal Church. They flee it because of lack of principle. Doesn't have any principle left. There's no, the things that they embrace are they truly truly worship at the altar of pathological wokeness.
Right.
They accept every single crazy Marxist theory that comes their way. I don't know how the king can actually be head of that church.
Right.
And in Africa, this split in half. In fact, I mean, most of the Anglicans in Africa have split from England because they're conservatives.
Right. The Anglican Church in England is liberal.
Anglican Church is falling apart.
Right.
Nobody goes.
Nobody.
And when they want to go back to religion, they either go to the Catholic religion or an evangelical religion.
Right.
It's like the same thing in Africa. All of Southern Africa, which we'll talk about later, all of Southern Africa is largely been converted to Christianity.
Right.
Like over the Muslims 10 to 1.
Right.
Muslims are trying to correct that by killing them.
And well, we know
and that means Roman Catholics and evangelicals, people with strong beliefs.
Right. Right. Get rid of that.
So we'll see what happens with that BBC suit, but he's actually suing. He's actually suing his friend, the king. They own the BBC.
They own the BBC, I guess. Right. That's the British Broadcasting Corporation.
They shouldn't own newspapers either.
Right.
But I mean, England has become anything but a free country.
Right.
I mean, they arrest people now for their thoughts.
Well, Mayor, we have a very special guest who's going to join us momentarily. We're going to let him set up his shot, and I'll wait for him to give the thumbs up. He might be the busiest man in Washington.
Well, that was a great report that he wrote, but it had to take forever to write it. I mean, that's very, very detailed and very detailed and very documented.
Right.
And it covers. I mean, I know some of it is new to me, but most of it I know.
Right. And of course, when this happened and it was a surprise to you, your first comment to me anyway, you were just very relieved for the others that may not have as big of a platform as you have, right? And you were we were doing a great justice to those.
I looked at the list of people on the part, and every name I don't know. It's incredible how many names I don't know. I mean, these are people that I don't know, agreed to be an elector, which is perfectly legal, as I think we'll have Ed explain. But Professor Eastman, based on prior precedent, that most importantly that happened in 1960 in the Kennedy-Nixon case, and all of a sudden all these people are indicted as criminals for doing this.
Right.
In the two cases I was involved in, which would be Georgia and Arizona, the president was involved in the one in Georgia, but then they did electors in other states too.
Right.
That I wasn't involved with. All these people did was perfectly legal, and it was perfectly upfront. There was no fraud involved. They weren't being sent there as electors. They were being sent there as alternates. Should there be a change in the legal determination with regard to who won, which actually happened before in our history, and delegates were substituted.
Right.
And if you didn't have the delegates, named and by the date of the Electoral College, and when the court made the decision to give the state to the other candidate, you wouldn't have anybody to put in as an elector.
Right.
And this happened with the state of Hawaii in 1960. So how they could go ahead and indict people for it, I mean, they should go to jail for doing it.
That's right, Mayor. So
people who did it should go to jail for doing that. It was so obviously legal.
Right.
Of course, the press just
they never. Yeah, I mean, from the beginning, and I played.
And of course, I was indicted for it, and Trump was indicted for it, and Professor Eastman was indicted for it. Lost his law license. He was dean of a law school. He was the author of a constitutional law book.
Right. And I remember at the time, again, I was playing a very small role on the team, but I remember how you guys were working within the Constitution. That's the whole point of the steps you took.
Yeah,
you were taking steps in a constitution that respected the Constitution of the United States. So
my law license was taken away right after that happened without a hearing. I didn't get a hearing for a year and a half. And about 2 months afterwards, a court in the District of Columbia dismissed a case
Right.
against me with regard to January 6th. They basically said the same thing that Mr. O'Neill pointed out, that they took my comments out of context. The judge was an Obama judge, and he wrote that. And they dismissed the case against me, and the Bar Association continued to hold my license without a hearing for 1.5 years. And then they gave me a hearing in front of it with a completely warped prosecutor who participated in doctoring tapes, correct, Ted?
Absolutely.
And a judge who was a product of I think the Brooklyn Democrat machine, retired and getting contracts for doing these hearings. And if she had ruled for me, she'd have been fired by the Democrat Party.
That's right, Mayor. So
they got rid of some of my witnesses too, but that's okay.
Without further ado, we know he's again maybe the busiest man in Washington these days. A great American patriot, the United States pardon attorney. We could go on and on. We want to mention that he did write a New York Times bestseller, The Conservative Case for Trump. And when he wrote that, Mayor, you know, I can imagine the slings and arrows he took from fellow so-called conservatives at the time.
Yep, that's right.
Is United States pardon attorney Ed Martin, a great American patriot. Welcome to the show.
Ed?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Ted, thanks for having me on. You know, I'm just sitting here smiling, though, Mr. Mayor, of all the things that I know you love, and I know you love New York and America, the Constitution, all that. Your son, Andrew, is the one I'm smiling. He and I went exploring around the Department of Justice, the RFK building, and found a photograph of a young Rudy Giuliani from what might have been 1985 hanging up on the wall. They mark them like in the old movies where they have like stuffed animals, you know, on the wall, up on the wall. There's these portraits of these iconic figures, and there's young Rudy Giuliani when he served, and Andrew and I found that, and we had a lot of laughs. And my father's exactly the same age as you, and he's also a lawyer up in New Jersey, and Andrew and I kind of bonded over that. So it's great to be with you. I'm excited about what happened with President Trump, and more importantly, I'm excited about your voice getting louder and louder, like we need it to be, to help people understand what's going on in this country and what's important.
Well, I am a particular. I mean, the pardons, of course, are really. I think the strongest act so far in straightening out what we euphemistically call the two-tiered justice system. I mean, it's a crooked justice system. A two-tiered justice system is no justice. It's like in a dictatorship, and that's what we had under Biden. Your report knocks the heck out of that. With detail.
And let me say a couple of things. One is, like, sometimes you wonder, I bet you look at your life, Mr. Mayor, and you say, like, you came along just at the right time when people needed you to be, you know, the prosecutor and then be the mayor and then 9/11 and all. I swear in the last 10 months, the Lord has I became U.S. attorney in D.C. and the first day on the job, we pardoned all the J6ers. On the third day on the job, we pardoned 2 cops that were railroaded in D.C. On the fourth day on the job, we pardoned all those FACE Act, the pro-lifers who were persecuted. And then I get blown out of that job because I get confirmed because of idiots. And I end up in the pardon attorney. And as pardon attorney, I looked at this and I said to the president, Mr. President, we got to pardon the alternate electors because we got to shine a light on what's going on, but also we got to protect them. I was right on 2 fronts. One, Jack Smith has been revealed now that when he was doing his special counsel role, he had a vision, Mr. Mayor. You know this better than I do because you did the American organized crime trials. But in Sicily in early 1990, they had a maxi trial, and these guys, they tried all the 260 defendants. They built a separate courthouse. Jack Smith was such a vainglorious lunatic. He thought he was going to indict 275 people, all the false electors, that he called them false electors, all of the lawyers, everyone, to try to get Trump. And he ran out of time, thank goodness. And he ran out of, because if he was in D.C., as you just pointed out, you get judges and juries that will just do whatever they want. So that's number one. But number two is what we needed to do was, as you said, make sure people know that Donald Trump and all of us have their back, are on their side. And this pardon says about 2020, you were participating, you alternate electors, you lawyers and others, in the Constitution and the system. You were doing the right thing under the law as well as under our tradition, and you were targeted. You were hunted by the Biden administration, hunted down to be destroyed because the Biden administration wanted to what? To cover up. It looks like, I think we all know that, what happened in 2020. So I agree with you. These months, I'm looking at it and saying, Lord, I didn't know I was going to be the king of pardons, but here we are. And it's exactly where we needed to be to get people to understand. And you said it. Rudy Giuliani's famous. He's always going to have a lot of friends that remember his good deeds and what he did. There's people on this list that are regular folks. They raised their hand and said, I'll be an alternate elector, and they get destroyed, and they deserve, the attention at this point to say, those are patriots. I told people when you were done, these 77, they're going to build statues for the 77 that stood up, that did
You're
this,
absolutely
because
right.
that's what they deserve.
Yeah, and Professor Eastman based it on the 1960 Kennedy Nixon, and then two situations in the 19th century. He explained it to me and the president, and showed it to me.
Yeah.
And every lawyer involved, not just me. I don't want to tell you who, because they'll start going after them. Every lawyer involved said, "Of course, this is you just follow what they did," and that's what he did. He followed exactly what happened.
And to be clear, let's lay it out. In 1960,
Please.
JFK is running for president, and he realizes Hawaii is so close, and the JFK people think it may have been stolen. So Nixon wins by a few votes. There's 3 electors only in Hawaii. And so what does JFK do? He says, get me some alternate electors, and those 3 people, 2 men and 1 woman, and they sign up the paperwork. They go about processing how the election went. Turns out it does flip, and those 3 become the electors. Now, 2 things. One,
And that was after Ed. That was after the Electoral College had already voted.
Exactly.
Like December 30th or something, right?
Yeah, right. So I wanted to pardon those people posthumously. They're deceased now, because I wanted to force the media to cover it. And somebody along the way overruled me and said, don't do that. But what you said is exactly right. We have a constitution and an electoral college. It sets up the way you're supposed to play the game. In fact, Trump played the game by all the rules. That he didn't make it up. He played by the rules, and yet they turned around and said, no, we're going to call it a fraud, and we're going to go after you. And they really did across the country. As you know, you lived it in every way and every tool they could. It was they were hunting Republican MAGA folks, and I'm proud to play this role in trying to change that, and also again shine a light on what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, and they would shout you down no matter what you said. The media wouldn't cover it. They would shout you down. The facts that you recited about the 1960 election, they would never print. They would never show that.
Well, and this is another point that I would say is that a very important point. What we saw in the last 5 to 10 years, and really Obama started it, was the use of government to silence people by slow and legal process, right? So back when Lois Lerner's using the IRS to whack people, it's not just to give them a bad deal. It's to make the message, shut your mouth. If you come up, you're going to get a shot across the chops. And what the message in 2020 was, if you're one of these alternate electors, you're going to be punished. And other people went, well, maybe I'm not going to object. I gotta put my head down. I mean, humans are humans, and they silenced voices. Eastman up in Wisconsin, Mayor, you know this guy, Jim Trupus, is a judge. He's been a judge for 30 years. He's like, everybody loves him. He's not a wild guy like you or me.
This is a really important story too. Tell this one.
Yeah. Trupus is a really good guy, really good lawyer, nice man, and he signs on to be a lawyer. For
I helped to recruit him. I helped to recruit him.
Yeah. And then they just whacked him. To this day, they got him in court and they're threatening him. And you're like, holy cow, like this guy's not even a politician. And so these people, Trupus, he texted me. That's the thing I'm maybe most proud of. He texted me and said, thanks for doing this, Ed. And I said, it's not me, President Trump, but it's also not me that did it. It's you that deserve it. And God help us in this country. So I'm excited about the momentum of doing the right things, and really proud that the president used the pardon power the way he did to make this happen.
Yeah, and and as I said, that's of course the act is enormously important, but the report going along with it, this is for history.
Oh, let me say something about that. Very important. When I first told the president about it, he's the one that told me to do that. He said, that's good, but when you do this, I want to do these pardons, write it up. And he sent me to talk to about half a dozen people that had background on the specifics. And he said, write it up, because the president knows that what I've said over and over, the truth has no statute of limitations. There's no statute of limitations on the truth. We're going to get the truth out, right? There might be a statute of limitations on some of these bastards who did some of this stuff, and so the president said, write it up, and he wanted it to be out there like we did in that report, and that's why it was so careful. Went through, as you saw, there's footnotes, there's real. I must have had 50 people read that and review it with me and put it together.
I've read it through now twice, and I still haven't absorbed all of it, and I lived through it. I mean, a lot of it is a lot of it's very familiar to me. Not all of it, but a lot of it is very familiar to me, and it brings back a lot of new memories of what happened. All we were living through a period that was surreal. I'd get up in the morning. I'd say to myself, "I'm not in America.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in."
Yeah.
When I argued the case in Pennsylvania, and the judge wouldn't even hear from my witnesses. I had 12 witnesses lined up that were going to just regular citizens. And one guy was head of the Bar Association, and he had spent his time. He had organized because they wouldn't let him observe the votes in downtown Philadelphia. In fact, they pushed Attorney General Bondi away. The sheriff pushed her.
Right. I remember that. Yep.
Should have gotten arrested for assault. She had an injunction allowing them to look at the ballots. The sheriff said, "Nah, I'm not going to pay attention." And he pushed her away because he knew if he waited an hour, the crooked Supreme Court would reverse it and say, this would be the first election in the history of Pennsylvania where you didn't have to have observers. So,
well,
what he did was he set up a counting system. They stayed there day and night, and they counted off about 170,000 votes that were counted without everybody observing them. And then they made little notes of what they could see. Like these were all absentee ballots, except some of them were pieces of paper that had never have been folded. Well, you can only do an absentee ballot from the mail. You have to fold it. They actually took pictures of votes being torn up. Person would look at it and tear up the vote. They have pictures of it. The judge wouldn't allow that to be put in evidence. He wouldn't allow the witnesses to testify. He wouldn't look at any of the affidavits. He said the case wasn't ripe for adjudication.
Well, yeah. We could do another 10 shows on this subject, but I will say, to underscore it, because your whole career has been as a great lawyer, our legal system is at an inflection point, because the one thing that really stunned me about what we saw in 2020, both with the election challenges and the January 6th, then I watched the persecution in a form of prosecution of J6ers, was there were far too few lawyers stepping forward saying, no, that system's off balance. Like that, we don't use ripeness to eliminate a real conflict. We use our judgment, right? We don't use prosecutors.
Oh, cut off.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
We don't. Something's off balance, and I really think if we don't get it back in balance,
right.
our system, that our crown jewel in this country is not in the museum or the Tower of London or the Tower of Washington D.C. It's our Constitution and the rule of law. If that balance is off, and again, the people that I blame are my fellow members of the bar that didn't object and say, wait a second, you could disagree with Eastman, but you can't disbar him, right? Wait a second, you could disagree with Rudy, but you can't act like this. And too many of them didn't do that, as you know. Most of them stepped back and stood aside, and that's a disaster for our system.
What about when they heard that the people that were being prosecuted and investigated couldn't get lawyers? None of the bar associations. Now, the only way I know some of these names is I helped to get lawyers for them. I probably helped to get lawyers for 100 people. And I usually, after 10 tries, I'd get somebody. But I can't tell you how many, including people. I had over 1,000 lawyers that worked for me at one time or another. So I had a heck of a network. I mean, more than half of them were sellouts. They were afraid their law firm would fire them. I said, hey, my law firm fired me. Screw you. Come on.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
you could today you could go out and get lawyers for asylum. People trying to get asylum or chase the border, and you couldn't get lawyers for J6ers or for election folks. I mean, the world went upside down and has. And again, my point is, we're living through it. We've survived it. We've got to worry about it. But we also have to say, is the system breaking? You know, when I saw it up close, U.S. Attorney in D.C., and I watched what the D.C. judges were doing and the D.C. juries were doing, and what the D.C. judges were allowing the D.C. juries to do. You know, we had a system. I know how much you love the men and women in blue. We had a system in D.C. in the court system where they basically allowed the public defenders to say that any cop was telling a lie. Then they would put them on the Lewis list, and their career would be destroyed. And you're sitting back on, how can this be a
what was
system?
the
Who the
Lewis
hell?
list, Ed? What was the Lewis
Well,
list?
the Lewis list is one of those lists that says that a law enforcement officer had their credibility questioned in testimonies. So you had to report it on the next case, every case after. So if you're a cop and somebody and the judge finds that you had made something untrue, a statement untrue, you're going to have a tough time testifying again and again. My point is, they just threw the system out, and you can't look. You can take a ham sandwich, throw it at the head of a cop in D.C., and the jury won't convict you. The judges should throw that shit. They should throw out the jury, the verdict, and convict them, right? I mean, there's a role here. The system has to adjust, or it's not a system. So we're in a big world of hurt. We saw it with the folks that were tortured by the alternate electors theory, and we saw it with the J6ers. And I'm glad I could be a part of this part of it.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the J6s. Do you know I have a band on here? I've worn it. It says Ashley Babbitt.
Uh-huh. Yep.
I watched the Sullivan tape the night of January 6th. It was given to me by two women, one of whom had infiltrated Antifa. And she gave it to me, and I watched it. And I've prosecuted probably 40 homicide cases as part of RICO, right? And I said to myself, well, we got a murder one investigation here. I had several very, very experienced New York City detectives look at it with me before I turned it in. And they said, this cop's in a lot of trouble. Every cop knows the defense. The defense is you have to be in reasonable fear of your life. He had no fear for his life. He had 6 cops right behind him and 10 cops on the other side. He had a 5'2" woman without a weapon. And then he had 2 people closer to him, one of whom was an Antifa guy banging the door down with a pole. Those are the 2 guys he should have shot if he was scared and panicked, not the unarmed woman who he blew her brains out.
Yeah. No, it's a history. Again,
I've watched hits before, like the Gotti one. People remember that, or the one in front of Sparks. I prosecuted that case, and he got killed while I was being prosecuted. I'm not going to. You and I can talk privately, but let's just say there's certainly probable cause to believe that was first-degree murder, planned to kill her, and. Nobody gave a damn about her. Instead, they had a ceremony in the Capitol for a poor police officer who died of natural causes. Maybe that's all going to come out. Do you think so, Ted? It looks that way.
Yeah, I do. And I'm on the weaponization working group, and we're looking at January 6th, and I'm confident that we're going to get the truth out. I really am. I'm confident there's going to be more accountability, even on the topics you're talking about. I'm very confident. I'm not going to comment beyond that.
Well, I'll just tell you.
Yeah.
I'll just tell you so you don't miss it that I have a Twitter, an old Twitter, 2 days after January 6th. In which somebody says to Sullivan's brother says that his brother got about 250 Antifa people into the Capitol, and they got the job done.
Wow. Okay.
And I turned that over to your predecessor, thinking, here's what I naively thought. No matter how crooked you are as a prosecutor, you're not going to screw around with homicide.
A lot of things have changed. I got to run to another interview.
Yeah, God bless
Mr.
you.
Mayor.
I know you do, Ed, and thank you for giving us so much time.
Let me come back on another time. I'm a big fan of yours. America loves you.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
It restores my confidence. God bless you.
Fight on. Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you, Rudy. Thanks, Ted. Talk to you.
Than's Ed. Oh, Ed is
I had many, many young men like that working for me when I was
Mr. Martin.
When I was U.S. attorney, and it gives me the chills to see somebody who believes in America the way he does. And of course, he's had to go through, he's got a big smile on his face and he's a tough guy, but he's had to go through terrible times.
Right.
They've tortured the guy for
And
doing this.
They did, and he's working his
And
butt off.
as you can see, he's extraordinarily bright. He's a very, very good lawyer. This is very well documented. I mean, I would bore you to death if I went through the whole thing, I think, but you should try to get a copy of it. You can get it online. It's about 20 pages. You probably want to read it 3 or 4 times, and it's all documented. I mean, even if you believe half of it, these people should go to jail. Right? They should go to jail for this. This is probably the worst crime against our justice system in the history of the United States of America. And he's right, both the election cases and the J6, which was the same thing. And I think you're going to find out what I knew the night that it happened, that J6 was a complete setup. I don't know if Nancy Pelosi orchestrated it or not. I don't know that. From the tape doesn't reveal that. It doesn't reveal that it was orchestrated. But her false testimony, her not wanting to turn over her files, the contrary statements that she's made about the National Guard and not. And then, of course, the fact that she's a basically dishonest person. No one in Congress makes $300-400 million without being a thoroughly dishonest person. It may be that they're exempt from insider trading laws because they made themselves exempt, but you're morally bankrupt if you do it. If you take advantage of your position to defraud the market. And the last year she was there, like pigs, they made $174 million. So somebody like that's not going to try to fix an election. Come on. When you have no morals, you have no morals. This is the point that Bernie Kerik made to me about 1.5 years before they attempted to kill President Trump. He said, Mayor, you better warn him. They're going to try to kill him. I said, Bernie. And he said, I'm going to ask you a question, Mayor. You've investigated them completely. They've probably asserted 20 false things about you more. They got your license taken away without even a hearing. You were suspended, and they had 2 phony hearings. They threatened your witnesses. They doctored the tapes. Answer it this way, he said to me. Are they morally capable, since they've done everything else to him to keep him away from the presidency, are they morally capable of killing him? I said, yeah, sure. What, am I, a fool? He said, well, go tell him. So watch out. I think they're going to do that. I'm not saying they did. I'm just telling you what Bernie Kerik told me and what I told then citizen Trump, ex-President Trump. And then we have these 2 attempts, and we don't know anything about them. We just went through a trial. One of them was like, ugh. These 2 people that attempted to kill him, the only 2 people who have no history in America. We don't know why they traveled overseas, why they had these. They just traveled to Ukraine. They just traveled to Ukraine. And then one of them attempted to kill the president. Yeah, I want to follow that up. Well,
that was a great interview.
It was a great interview, and we're still. The reason this all has to come out, painful though it is so that we build in our culture and in our law and every protections against this happening again. Because when it happens, we're no longer America. For these people on this list, they might as well have been in the Soviet Union. They had no justice. And some of those arrests were horrendous. I mean, look at the way, the ones that you've seen on, like Roger Stone. Now, they just indicted Comey, the Trump administration. I didn't see them pulling up with machine guns at his house. I didn't see CNN along for the ride.
Right.
You don't want to tell me there's a big difference between us? I mean, those are goons. They made the FBI into a goon squad.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do that to Comey. And no matter how angry I am at him, which I am, I hired that guy. No matter how angry I am at him, how disappointed I am in him, and how I feel he is one of the worst people. He's the worst head of the FBI. I mean, they corrupted the damn place. I wouldn't arrest him with machine guns.
Right.
You don't need machine guns for. I mean, you could deal with Comey with a slingshot. Yeah, just take out the slingshot and they start crying. You can see what a big sissy he is, right? And then that thing with the numbers, kill Trump numbers,
86.
that he
Yeah.
discovered in the sand.
Should I have that?
What a screwed up individual he is. And then four times he signs a FISA warrant that's false, and he's walking around free. Tell us what that means, Ted. 8647.
So Comey had posted this on his personal Instagram account.
He just found this on the beach. He found this on the beach.
And the 86 is slang for killing, right? Or ending. And 47, of course, is President Trump right now is the 47th president of the United States.
It's so funny. Somebody was watching Comey, I guess, and saw him coming, and they put all those things there for him to see.
And he posted
And
on
then
his
he took a
Instagram.
picture of it, not really knowing what it was, but he posted it anyway.
He posted anyway. 4 random numbers in the sand. Who does that? Who would just do that?
A guy who is
Sending a message,
a
maybe.
very morally bankrupt, corrupt individual,
And this came just
which he is, and who did great damage, did catastrophic damage to the FBI and great damage to our republic. And he should not be allowed to get away with it, because if he's allowed to get away with it, there'll be people that come along in the future.
right.
In fact, I really do believe, had he been prosecuted 4 years ago, and Hillary and a couple of the others, then everything that happened during the Biden thing maybe wouldn't have happened, because you put the fear of God into them. The fear of God works. I used it very effectively against Wall Street. It kept them honest for about 10 years. And I said it at the time, this will come back. Just give them a little time. But you see the mafia back, they're not quite what they used to be, but they're back trying to fix basketball games. Who the hell knows if they're involved in baseball? And
Yeah, I'm waiting for football. Something to drop with football. They're next.
you can bring crime down. You can bring it down to, it's never acceptable levels. I mean, look, I took murder down from 2,000 to 600 or 500 a year. That's a lot of lives that I saved, right?
Yeah.
And my police.
Yeah.
We still lost a lot of people. And even now, I mean, New York City is still one of the lower places for murder.
Right.
I mean, a lot safer than Washington, D.C. What about Washington now? But a year ago, much safer than Chicago. My goodness, always was, except when we had David Dinkins.
Right.
But that's a pretty. This year they'll probably have around 400. That's still too many people.
Yeah, it's 400. It's
400 in a city that size is Chicago, for example, will be about 7 times that per capita. But still, you're going to celebrate 400 murders, and then people would say, sometimes they would say, "Are you aiming to get it down to 0?" I said, "Well, I think only God can do that. Only God can change the human personality. Maybe that happens with the Last Judgment, huh? I don't know. I mean, God has left us with free will, and unfortunately, I mean, you want to know what I religiously believe? It works most of the time, but sometimes it doesn't. I mean, sometimes God wins, and sometimes the devil wins. And the devil was in charge of our political system for a good deal of time. I mean, you can't find a family more corrupt than the Biden family, just objectively more corrupt. I can't imagine there was ever a family in the White House that was more perverted and corrupt than that family. Or at least, we don't have the proof of anybody like that. I can't imagine there was another president that and his family took $31 million from our biggest enemy, China. I can't imagine that the Kennedys or the Reagans took anything from Russia, right? Well, they took bare minimum 3.5 million. It's a lot more than that. A lot of it is a lot more. You know who could tell you how much it is? Zelensky. He's got it all in his files. Seen some of it. He's hiding them. He's hiding them to cover up, probably have some leverage, and also against the people. He's got all kinds of stuff against the people in Ukraine, including the prior president. That guy. Yeah, let's put it in. Let's put it in over 100 million in bribes that he took when he was in office. And the guy before him, when he walked out of the Ukraine, left 800. I think $800,000 in the entire bank account of Ukraine. They had taken out around 40 or 50 billion dollars. Him, the guy that employed Hunter Biden and bribed Joe Biden, the mentor of Zelensky, Kolomoisky, who ran the most corrupt bank and also created Zelensky. Now, I don't say this. I'm not. I'm a strong supporter of supporting Ukraine and ending the war in Ukraine without a victory for Putin. And I have a very, very different view, than a lot of people about that. Much more what I would call a Reagan view of it. But in any event, I'm also not blind to the fact that Zelensky is an extraordinarily corrupt man. Except they're all over Ukraine and all over Europe and all over the United States like that. Putin's on a different level.
Right.
Putin is a mass murderer, has been since he was a young man. I mean, you just have to accept that and then go from there. And go from there means you got to stand up to him. The only thing Putin understands is a very, very strong punch in the face. Read my book, Stand Up to Bullies. And believe me, from what I know about what happened during the pandemic, he doesn't want to die. He might have trouble with the Ayatollah, but I think he doesn't want to die either. I think he's a big phony. The reason you don't want Iran to be nuclear is you got this streak of religious, maniacal, suicidal thinking there, where maybe they would put the world on fire. But Putin doesn't want to. Putin doesn't want those beautiful castles. He's one of the richest men of the world. He didn't want all that stuff gone. Loves women. Was talking to Xi Jinping about how maybe they could extend their lives with all this stuff they're working on. Maybe someday people can live forever. Yeah, right. You better live forever because, I guess he's enough of an orthodox way back that he still has this little image of hell in his head, right?
Yeah.
It probably haunts him.
Right.
I mean, it's really terrible. Now, we have taken a break, right?
I think we have to take a break this hour still.
Okay, but let's take a break. We'll come right back.
We got to pay the bills.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, yeah, we're not communists. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code Rudy. Act fast. These deals are selling out.
here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're gonna go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Well, welcome back. Rudy Giuliani with America's Mayor live from Palm Beach, Florida, on Veterans Day, which is the day in which we honor all of those who served us in the military. And I know. Do we have the Ton of the Towers advertisement on? Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did.
But I'm going to reiterate it because it's a special day to reiterate it. This would be a very important day to make your $11 contribution to T2T.org. I can't say enough about them, and this is deep personal experience. I'm sure there are charities that are similar to them. There's no one better. There's no one that is conducted more accountably and serving a greater or higher purpose than what they're serving. They began by taking care of the families who lost loved ones on September 11. Then when they had taken care of those families, and there had been others also that helped with those families, they wanted to continue their mission of helping in the spirit of their brother Stephen. This is the family, the Silla family, who had lost his life running to the World Trade Center tower to save other people. Extraordinary young man, extraordinary family. And they decided the thing to do was to help the people who had gone off and continued to defend America after that first line of defense, the firefighters and police officers of New York City and the Port Authority. So they began to help the people who came back from the war against the terrorists, protecting us against the terrorists, and had lost the use of their limbs, had become paraplegics well, pretty much, yeah. They were the most serious, very often the most serious cases. And they started building homes for them and also looking into the equipment and that was available to help them so they could live more independent lives in those homes. Well, that led to a much larger number of people than they thought. Remember, today in warfare, more of our soldiers survive because our medical help for them has improved dramatically, and also the things available to keep them alive. These are people that, God forbid, would have died in earlier wars, but then they're alive with tremendous liabilities, tremendous difficulty, both mental and physical. And so we have to extend much more help to them. And Stephen Silla's family understood this. So it began with that, and then it became every family, and they included law enforcement and first responders in that, because they see it as one. That's what led them to go from the 9/11 people to the military. One group is protecting our liberty internationally, and the other group is protecting our freedom here in the United States and our lives in the case of firefighters and first responders. Then they decided to pay off the mortgages for people who died in the line of duty. And I would tell you, myself and John Houvain, who was the head of my security company, played a role in that, in recommending that to Stephen about a particular family. And I'll tell you all of these stories at different times, but and I have probably at different times. And if you've watched me for a long time, I'm probably repeating it, but I'm sure I'm not boring you. Because if you watch this show regularly, you know you love this country. And you have the same passion for it that I have. So these stories can never. These are the stories that make America great. People like the Sillers. So then they went on to help with mortgages. So when you hear of a police officer or firefighter Patrick Brady, who died and had his funeral the other day. Patrick Brady died fighting a fire. Well, the tunnel to towers was there. He is. Comes from a family. Well, of course, you don't even have to. I know this, but the minute I heard he died, I said, well, chances are his brother is a firefighter or his father is a firefighter. How about two brothers, an uncle and a cousin of firefighters? That happens all the time. Because the first instinct, if I say to you, do you want to be a firefighter? Is, my God, I don't want to run into a fire. What a terrible job. Now, if you know the culture of fire departments, and New York is exceptional, I have to say. Please don't get angry at me. But New York is exceptional. The fire department in New York sets the standard. Please. It's the biggest city in the United States by a lot. And it's the most complicated place to fight a fire. You see those buildings, you know what it's like to fight fires in those buildings? The equipment they have now. And then you also have to know how to fight fires in a single family house or a 2-family house or a 1,000-family apartment building. You got to know all that. And you got to keep yourself alive doing it, and you got to keep your brother alive doing it. And it doesn't always work, does it? Well, Patrick comes from a firefighter family. If you come from a firefighter family, you know the rewards of it, the inner rewards of putting your life at risk to save others. And then as he did, laying down your life for your brother. Isn't that what Jesus says is the greatest love? Greatest form of love? That's a pretty strong authority, huh? Well, to his family and to all of the firefighters of New York City and all throughout the United States, because they're all doing that same thing. They're all laying down their lives. I mean, you can die in a simple single-family home fire, or you can die in a 30-story building. I mean, it's still dying, and it's still fire kills you. And it's extraordinarily dangerous, and it takes very, very brave men to run into it. And women, if they're absolutely qualified. No fooling around here, no bullshit. It's like in the military. If I'm fighting for my country, the guy next to me better be as qualified as I am, or better. Or the woman next to me. And if she isn't, please do something else. Boy, did we go through a nightmare. Did we go through a nightmare of insanity that cost lives? I mean, and we got ourselves to the point where we have men participating in boxing with women. I mean, so Patrick is the New York Post went and got this statistic. He's the 1,163rd FDNY member to die in the line of duty. 1,163.
Wow.
Of course, that's a couple centuries, but
Still.
so I had before September 11, I had 47 die, I think, and then on September 11, of course. Hard to recall. So let's go to another subject. Patrick, pray for us. I know you're up there with your brothers, and your family is so proud of you. They miss you. and their hearts are broken, but they're so proud of you. The tariff case that is pending before the Supreme Court and was argued last week with everybody quite convinced that the justices are going to take away from President Trump the power to set the tariffs, saying that it's like taxes. It's not different. Everyone is convinced that the Supreme Court is going to say the presidential power went too far, even though that power was given to him by Congress. For him to deal with in emergencies or in difficult circumstances, or they're gonna say it's too much power to give to the president if he can just set tariffs and do that for revenue purposes. Therefore, it's like a tax. Now, the government argued it wasn't revenue. Was a collateral consequence of what it was for. The reason he was setting those tariffs had to do with the exercise of foreign policy. Remember, those tariffs had to got China to agree to do a lot more about fentanyl. We've already gotten positive consequences from that, by the way. I didn't report on it yesterday, but China has set up definable and observed organization and has gone out and arrested a lot of the fentanyl people.
Right.
So, I mean, I think Xi Jinping sees this as a cheap way to make sure he can preserve his concessions on other things that'll bring him a lot more money directly. The money from the drug dealers, they probably steal a lot from him. If they're any kind of drug dealers, Chinese or otherwise, they're stealing like hell, including from him. He can't kill everybody. But this is the Wall Street Journal that I praise sometimes greatly, and annoys the hell out of me sometimes because they're too smart to be this obsessed about tariffs. Has an article, but it's quite correct that the case probably turns on Justice Roberts, and it's a very, very balanced piece. It's written by a reporter I don't know, Jess Bravin. And it's a balanced piece because it basically says that although it sounded like the court thought that he had been given too much power, and that in order to, for purposes of separation of power, they're going to have to declare that that's beyond the Constitution, and that it's like taxes that can't be set by the president; it has to be set by. But tariffs are not like taxes. Tariffs are about trade, and even adjusting them so that you protect America against their high tariffs isn't like taxes. It's not occasioned by how much money can we raise for the government. The reason you make the decision on tariffs is because the other country is charging you very high tariffs and therefore hurting your domestic industry. So you can't sell to them on an equal basis. Or in the case of President Trump and other presidents, you can use a tariff, particularly from a great, strong nation like ours, to affect other kinds of foreign policy, like a country that's importing huge amounts of deadly drugs, and they won't do anything about it. So you put a high tariff on them. But that isn't for revenue purposes. That's in lieu of invading them. I mean, we tried that with Venezuela. It didn't work. So now we're shooting down their boats. I think we shot down another one today.
We've gotten a number of them.
I mean, they're criticizing him and they're going crazy and they're going nuts. But the president has his eye on the ball. He's going to stop those bastards from sending drugs into this country.
Right.
Boy, do I respect that. You don't know how many people's lives he's going to save that way. They're probably going to save as many lives as Biden cost by doing it. And they're giving him a hard time about it. And our military is not supposed to do this. I mean, yesterday was the anniversary of the United States Marines. Jefferson sent the Marines to the Mediterranean to fight the Barbary pirates. Jefferson, one of our greatest presidents and probably one of our greatest constitutional scholars, along with Madison, to ever sit in the White House, right? didn't go to Congress for the Barbary pirates. You're not going to go to. It's not a war. It was to protect our. It was to protect our ability to trade. And our little teeny little country that had just fought a big war with the greatest empire in the world and defeated them, kicked the shit out of the Barbary pirates, and created the United States Marine Corps. And then they've gone on and done miracles, the Marines. If you can't respect the Marines, you can't respect anybody. You don't respect yourself, probably. So here's what the author says in this very short, I'm not sure it's a lawyer. It doesn't sound like a lawyer. He sounds like just a common sense guy. He says it's going to eventually, and if not, not eventually, it's going to, as Roberts goes through this, Roberts can also have to deal with, well, now if you take this power away from the president, you give all the money back. How are you going to, it's billions and billions of dollars. No one really knows how much it is. It's enough so that it's helping to balance our budget. It's actually helping to balance our budget. If we kept collecting this and we could get control over some of that, we could have a balanced budget. But he's not doing it in order to balance the budget. That's what he would maybe levy taxes to do that. He's doing it to stop them from sending fentanyl in. Or he's doing that to stop them from trading with Russia and therefore trying to help Ukraine. That's the reason for it. And then the collateral consequence of it is that you collect money. Then if you don't collect the money and the tariff is gone because you don't need it, you get the benefit of whatever it is that you were trying to do to protect your country. It's a weapon. Even when it's used for just pure trade, it's a weapon. I mean, the ideal situation, as he said, would be no tariff. You don't have one, we don't have one. You have one, we've got to have one to protect ourselves. Possibly on different things because we make different things, or we have expertise in different things. Or we need to levy it in order to faithfully execute the laws of the United States and protect this country. The other taxes, the income tax and the sales tax, is there for no other purpose other than to collect revenue. I don't see why this is such a complicated thing for the court. I don't understand some of the questions and the confusion about it. But here's the big one. If this decision could neuter the president, we're not be able to protect ourselves. Other countries run all over us. Congress, you think Congress is going to act? The other countries go and get lobbyists, and they pay them. You get me enough lobbyists, I'll get the vote out of Congress. We'll even beat Trump with enough lobbyists. Put up enough money. Look what the pharmaceutical industry has been able to do to Congress, the military-industrial complex. Look what the teachers union has done to the Democratic Party. It owns them. Now they vote against their own people. Black people are 70% in charge of vouchers and choice in education. The Democratic Party is 90% against it because the teachers union pay for it. We have a much better chance that a president can act free of that. And why would you want to do this? I mean, it's also kind of out of your expertise. Justice Roberts, everything I'm telling you, Justice Roberts knows. He's a smarter guy, as smart as the guy he's ever going to meet. He does have a tendency to want to protect the institution too much. Sometimes and now please don't get angry at me, Justice Roberts, and maybe you're not listening. But he does have it. Sometimes you get yourself so, I don't mean you, I mean just Roberts, but people get themselves so wound up in protecting the institution, they're actually hurting the institution by trying to protect it. Maybe you should just make the right decision. That's how you protect it. And if they're going to criticize it, they'll get over it. They'll get over. They got over overturning Roe against Wade, right? They got over it, and now we have states making a decision on the federal basis on which our great founders thought things should be done. They were smarter than us. They're smarter than me and smarter than you, Justice Roberts. And we're bound to follow them. You know that better than I do. And this guy says it can be very close because the practicality of this is disaster for this country, both in terms of exercise of foreign policy and the economy. He takes away this power from the president. You see what happens to our economy. Woo. I mean, I don't. Donald J. Trump is a miracle worker, but listening to him, today he talked about it, and you can see he's trying to get a little practicality into this decision making. And I can start playing lawyer and tell you how I think the case should have been argued somewhat differently than the Solicitor General argued it. But I'm quite confident that the arguments that he could have made, or some of which I've just made, the court, these are extraordinarily, on both sides, these are extraordinarily intelligent people. And even if they miss something, their law clerks don't. So, but this is the most important decision they're going to make. And I know most people wouldn't realize it, but Trump has used a tariff for so many different things and so effectively that to take it away from him will hurt our country dramatically. And it's not necessary. I mean, I really think it's the wrong decision. I do not think tariffs are taxes. They're different. Tariffs have a more complex purpose than taxes. And the financial, the amount that you get for the government is not the goal of levying the tariff, or at least in the case of what Trump was doing. The goal was either to level the playing field so that our industries were not affected by huge tariffs from them, and in most cases, if not all, except China and now China, it led to an agreement, but a much better agreement for the United States. That's what it was all about. Not, oh, gee, we got to collect 50% because if we do that, we get X amount of money. That's what you do with an income tax. Okay, that's enough on that. But and maybe we're both wrong, myself and the reporter, and it isn't all Justice Roberts. But somehow I think that Gorsuch and Kavanaugh and Alito and Justice Thomas, who is, I think, the greatest justice of the 20th century into the 21st century, they're going to get there. I don't know. Justice Barrett surprises me. She could get there or not. And I think John Roberts would get there. Because I don't think if there is a complication with Justice Roberts worrying about the reputation of the court, I don't think the court is going to suffer a tremendous damage to its reputation if it upholds the presidential power. I think the other could happen. I mean, the negative consequence will occur if they strike it down. I mean, even if it isn't catastrophic, it'll be very damaging to our economy, and people will blame the court. And it's not a necessary constitutional decision. In fact, I think the better argument is the other way. It is true, as many people said, I don't think the president got the best argument he could have gotten. I mean, Alan Dershowitz was immediately on filling in the argument. But Alan's exceptional. The first recorded name in history, somehow in this new book about the history of money by David McWilliams, which was reviewed either yesterday or today in the Wall Street Journal. He found out that the first recorded personal name in human history didn't belong to somebody extremely important, a king or whatever. It belonged to a brewer, Sumerian from Samaria, and his name was Cusham. And it was inscribed on a clay tablet. And it was bribed in order to make a record of a loan that he'd taken out. It was 5,000 years ago. Now, the loan wasn't money, but it had interest. Interest of 33%, which would be like usury now. 33% interest. And he borrowed barley to brew a batch of beer, and he had to pay back 33% more barley. And he wrote it down on this tablet, on this thing, like I guess one of the clay tablets. Maybe he had an inn or something that he had to pay back this 33% more in barley. And his name is Cusham. And I mean, I can't tell you if this is correct, but the author says that, and I can't come up with somebody else.
Right. No.
Mondami is now appointing the people to help him figure out who to appoint, which is what you do. It's called, the transition
team.
Transition team. The head of my transition team when I was mayor was Dick Parsons.
Dick Parsons, Pennsylvania,
who eventually was who was the head of Time Warner for a long time. The head of his is the most left-wing, totally distorted member of the Biden administration, who ran the FTC, and now he's named his first deputy mayor, who is 74 years old. My first deputy mayor was Peter Powers. Randy Mastro, who is now the first deputy mayor to Mayor Adams, who came in to help him, and then oh gosh, it's just escaping. My name is escaping me. He ran for mayor. Just look it up.
Yeah.
So he's appointing Dean Fullahan as his first deputy mayor. Now, this guy's not going to slow down his spending. He oversaw a 15% budget increase for de Blasio when he was the head of de Blasio's fiscal team. He worked for the most crooked man in Albany, Shelley Silver, who spent the end of his life in jail. He firmly believes in Mondani's agenda, which I don't know what that makes him, communist, I guess. And then all his work in government has been to take the budget of the city or the state and spend money wildly, crazily, and insanely. Then he picked as his I don't know what El Biscard Church is going to be. But she's a Democrat Socialist of America member. She'll be his chief of staff. Well, so those are the two most important. Joe Lota.
Okay.
Yeah, Joe Lota. So these are going to be his two most important people. One is 74-year-old left-winger who started his career as the budget chief for the imprisoned Shelley Silver, and then went on he's been described as a true progressive. That'll scare the shit out of you. True progressive means he's going to spend every penny you got and more. And he oversaw for de Blasio a major increase in the amount of money New York City spent that it didn't have. So this is going to be really great. And of course, some of the city people love it because they know him. I mean, he's been around for a while, Hunter College, and all these other places. So he's fine. I mean, it's the fact that he has produced budgets for the city and state that are completely insane, and this guy needs somebody who can control him. Doesn't make any sense to him. And then his chief of staff is a member of the DSA, which by the way, is on the list of, is considered by our intelligence services a communist organization. And association with it would disqualify you for a federal job. So Mondami could not be hired to work in Washington, even if there was a Democrat there. Well, of course, they'd probably find some way to fix it. But he couldn't pass a background check. It would be an automatic disqualification. It was an automatic disqualification for him being a citizen. But he hid it. He failed to disclose it. In other words, he filed a false statement in order to become a citizen of this country, which we're going to, I guess, overlook. So this is really starting off really, really well. But you knew it, right?
Right.
I mean, so he's taking people from de Blasio's administration. He's taking people to work for a machine Democrat that was a crook all his life and finally went to jail. Bill Cunningham, who's quoted here in the Post, this is like the most jackass quote I've ever heard. This is talking about Houlihan, who's probably a buddy of his, even though he's a progressive to the point of being a communist, if he agrees with the agenda of Mondami. He's talking about Houlihan. From his time with the Assembly's budget office, he certainly knows the fiscal geography of the state, as well as the city. And that'll be crucial for the new administration. You know what the fiscal geography of the state is, Bill? New York State spends almost 2.5 times more than the state of Florida. You explain to me how that doesn't mean they steal like crazy. How can it be that New York State, that has 18 million people, has to spend 2.5 times, almost 2.5 times, almost 2 times, let's say 2 times, what Florida spends? Does it really give 2 times more service? Of course not. Does it pay for most things that are put out to contract way more than almost any other state? Yes. If it's a no bid contract, is it almost always excessive, crazy, and an insane amount of money? Yes. And if it isn't, don't the overruns run up to 3 times more than the original bid? Yes. And hasn't this guy presided over this now for 30, 40 years? And he's got a crazy communist that he's going to work. He's going to control him. I don't know. You work for Mike, but what are you doing? Kissing his ass or something? Or I don't really know Cunningham. I don't think. But this is a real kiss ass jackass remark. He knows the fiscal geography of the state. The state is effing bankrupt. People are leaving this state like there's a big fire going on. You know what the fire is? The fire is the lack of fiscal integrity, and they know they're going to get raped with high taxes or whatever else you can do to them. So the state is shrinking. People are leaving in record numbers. We're in a great contest with California and New Jersey as to who can lose the most. This year it'll be us because we were flirting with this communist and elected him. And this guy is part of what created that budget structure for this state. It's also a budget structure, unless you're a fool, you realize is done because the state is corrupt. And there's plenty of room for kickbacks and bribes. And it's going on all over the state. I mean, Albany, I go by the state capitol. You can't imagine. I mean, it's not much different than a house of prostitution. You can buy it. New York State Assembly, the teachers buy it.
Yeah.
People vote, they vote constantly. Democrats, they vote constantly against the interests of the children.
All the time. So
you think I'm making this up? I mean, they're spending twice as much, if not 2.5 times more than I was mayor. And the scores have gone down by about 60%.
Right.
We have a majority of our children can't read or do arithmetic properly. They fall below the national standard, a majority. And this used to be one of the greatest educational systems, public in the country. And even when I was mayor, it was still really near the top. But the teachers union has become more and more corrupt. you saw that during the pandemic when they extorted out of the Democrat slobs another year off so the kids could go way behind. And that's really what started the tremendous decline. And also Mike, who ended up being very tough with the teachers union when he controlled the Board of Education. I never got to control it. And then he gave him like a 17% increase and gave it all up.
Should have left after 2 terms.
He should have stayed a Republican. It was when he was a Democrat that he did it, or an independent, when he quit the Republican Party. And it's also when he wanted to control the size of the size of the amount of soda you could get in a.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I knew him. I was a kid. And
Do you know Rush Limbaugh was going to create a mug with his face on it?
That would have been. Check out that mug you got tonight.
He also. Remember we were talking about Tunnel to Towers? That's the symbol. Isn't that a great symbol? That's Stephen. Well, I think we've covered all the things that I wanted you to know that I'm afraid you won't hear elsewhere. The court will not consider. The court declined a case to reconsider same-sex marriage, which you know they would do. There's controversy has moved on from same-sex marriage. I mean, I agree with same-sex marriage. I think people can make that choice and should be able to make that choice. And religiously, I'd be opposed to it religiously. But my religion doesn't control the government. And unless it's a basic area of morality like murder or something like that, I think people's rights have to be respected. But it's one thing to say that consenting adults can decide the kind of intimate life they want to have, and then encouraging young people to change their I don't know if I should call it sex or gender. I mean, that's a tragedy that's going on in our country. I mean, it's causing increased numbers of suicides, and we're just turning our back on it. Europe isn't. I mean, Europe is in many ways is more left-wing and more socialist and communist than we are. But on these health issues, they're better. They were better on COVID immediately. Immediately, they turned against the vaccine. In England, you don't even have a choice of using that crazy vaccine for anybody 19 or under. It's illegal. That's not based on. I mean, they treat Robert Kennedy Jr. like he's crazy. He's absolutely right. And look, I'm okay with the fact that people can make their own choice with their doctor. That because I think the government, I just don't like. I think the government should dictate only when it absolutely has to. But the point that I'm making is that my own personal choice is I wouldn't go near that vaccine. It's not a vaccine. I wouldn't go near that injection. It's not a vaccine because it doesn't prevent the illness. We use vaccines to prevent illnesses, and we use medicines to treat illnesses. So all this does is treat it, because you can get the vaccine numerous times and you can get COVID numerous times. I don't know, the Biden family had more COVID than anybody I know. The first stepmother must have had COVID 4 times, and I think she had the vaccine. She was getting a vaccine a month.
Maybe that explains.
Maybe that's why she's so mean. She was so mean to Navy.
Oh, I wonder if they've recognized Navy yet in their lives.
Well, they might now, because I think they were afraid of the publicity. Who knows what they were afraid of? Yeah, maybe they don't want to share in the money. It could be also possible. I mean, they are sort of an organized crime family.
Right.
Sort of. So there's a dispute. My friend Robert O'Neill is suing 2 podcasters who say he's lying about killing Osama bin Laden. I don't know if you remember Rob O'Neill.
Oh,
he's a good friend. He's a good friend of mine.
Right.
Now he is controversial among the SEALs, who also are very good friends of mine, and because the SEALs have a tradition that the person who, well, first of all, they never even tell you the SEAL team that does it. So the SEALs were very upset when Obama revealed that it was SEAL Team 6 that killed bin Laden. It should have been, in fact, shouldn't even know it was the SEALs. It could have been the Rangers. It could have been, they leave it as, you say, as little, we killed bin Laden, that's it. You don't have to know who did it. And they have a sort of an internal vow that they never say, the whole team did it. If you and I go in and you're the one who killed him, you don't put the weight on you because then they'll come after you in particular. Getting the whole team is kind of hard. So they were very angry at Obama for revealing it was SEAL Team 6 because they got targeted. Now, the SEAL teams are about 50 or 60 or 70. So it's a big number, but you still can target them, right? And then when Rob left and wrote a book, they were angry that he revealed that he was the guy who killed him. And there is a little dispute. Some of the others say they also shot him. There are about 2 others that say they shot him. So there is a little dispute about that. But there's no dispute that he was one of the people that killed him. I actually believe that he was the one who killed him from everything that I've seen and observed. But to say he basically said nothing, he's basically lying. He had nothing to do with it. These guys are 2 jackasses. And then they've changed no, he didn't kill bin Laden. It's the worst kept secret of all. The people who did this have something called the anti-hero broadcast. And one is named Tyler Hoover, and the other is named Brent Tucker. Hopefully you'll never hear about them again. And they continued, they had an on-air crusade in 2023, and they continued to falsely claim that he lied about his May 2, 2011 killing of bin Laden. And then as the evidence started to come out, and by the way, the fact that he was the one that killed him is corroborated by Admiral William McRaven. So I don't know, we're going to fight with the Admiral about it. And Rob's statement is, when they went in, he went in one direction, his partner went in the other direction. He just ran into him, and he shot him 3 times. That's his rendition of it. And I think that's the official version. So then these guys started backing off. And they said O'Neill was just the last guy to put a round in bin Laden. That's very different than their original statement. And they've made, and then this guy Tucker's got to be a jackass big mouth. He made a statement, I don't know exactly when he did this on his podcast, saying, well, I was telling the truth because I never got a lawsuit. And then Rob sued him. He said, I really didn't care what they were saying because it's just a lie. But if they're going to say, I got to establish the truth, I've got, I got half of the Navy to come in and testify for me. Let's see what these 2 jackasses are going to do. Neither Tucker nor Hoover returned any calls to the reporter who reported. Priscilla DeGregory and Peter Senzamichi. Thank you for reporting that. I don't know. There's been no. I regretted not. I did ask Ed Martin when we were interviewing him earlier whether there are going to be more developments in J6. And I know there are, and I think there will be. And I wanted to ask him about the pipe bomber.
Oh yeah.
The allegation that it was the person who placed those bombs was a Capitol Police officer. Because it kind of fits into,
right,
in sort of a general way, why I'm wearing this. Because a Capitol Police officer murdered her and got away with it. There's no way that isn't at least negligent homicide. At least. I think it's homicide because I don't think he fits the standard. that he was in reasonable fear of his life. Do you know, as far as I can tell, with the leaked grand jury testimony that I was able to read, the prosecutor never even asked him that. Wow. Never even asked him. Never put him under oath to explain the reasonable fear that he had that allowed him to shoot and kill an unarmed girl with somewhere around a dozen cops within striking distance. He had an army there to protect him. In fact, if you take a good look at it, he had an army. He had guys that were dressed up like the FBI, Gestapo team.
Right.
That had big helmets on and big guns. She was only 5'2". And the cops let them bang the door down. They moved out of the way to let the Antifa guy and the other one never identified the Antifa guy. And there's no explanation if the cop panicked, which is what he had to have done, which would make it the negligent homicide. The people to shoot were the people with the big thing in their hands. She had nothing in her hand. She didn't get thrown over and end up either on her face or her ass. And they'd have been able to cuff her in like 2 seconds or step on her.
Right.
Do you know when I realized that? On the evening of January 6th.
Right.
All this time, I've known what a phony January 6th is. Can you imagine? Having to listen to all that. I even have the tweets inviting the Antifa people to come there, or the speech egging them on the day before, or the one that said, come on January 6th and let's take him out. Let's take him out, meaning the president, which would ordinarily lead to an arrest by the Secret Service. It never happened. I mean, there are so many questions about January 6th, some you know and some you don't know. And now with these pictures, videos that have existed for about a year and a half or something, of the police cars in front of the building, the package put there, the package put. And they name as a leak the former Capitol Police officer who is alleged to have placed the bombs there, who is now, they say, a current operative for the FBI and CIA, which he got as a reward for that. Also, the guy that killed Ashley got a lot of money from the police department. We don't know how much. More than $100,000. I don't know. It's a bonus for killing her. That's like a payment for a hit.
Right.
So one thing I really think would be very, very interesting for you to do is to go online and look at the names of all these people who were pardoned. Probably there are going to be 3 or 4 on there that you recognize. The point that I'm making is this wasn't me and Mark Meadows and Professor Eastman, who would be, well known or whatever. These were just regular Americans who were doing their job. They were right, by the way, but they truly believed that they had evidence, and they did, of election theft. Some of it was a little bit of evidence. Some was a lot of evidence. These are not political operatives. They're regular citizens. A lot of them got financially ruined as a result of this witch hunt. Law licenses taken away, jobs fired from jobs, arrested like they were animals. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very, very much. Yes, for me, but for them too, and even more for them. But thank you. We're really trying to get to the bottom of. I spent some time today trying to research this Nigeria thing, because the Christians are being murdered in Nigeria at an alarming rate, both Roman Catholic and evangelical, about an equal number of both.
Right.
However, Nigeria is one of the few countries in sub-Saharan Africa that is friendly with the United States. Most of them have been infiltrated pretty darn well by China and Russia. And That doesn't mean we shouldn't stop them from killing Christians. And they say that that was a thing of the past, and that this is a fight between cattle herdsmen, some over dwindling resources between the Muslims and the Christians, and that some number of Muslims have been killed also. This is what they say. I'm not. And Tinubu, who is the president of Nigeria, is married to a Christian Pentecostal preacher.
Wow.
And says he would never tolerate, either the government doing it or the government condoning it. And this gentleman from the Hudson Institute think tank, who's been studying Nigeria for some time, James Barnett. Let's see if we can find him, Ted. He says some victims whose churches have been torched and relatives killed have described the violence as a Christian genocide. But Barnett says that it is much more now a dispute over land for grazing. Open Doors US says that 3,100 Christians have been killed this year in Nigeria. That's an alarming number, but it's also a number that you can track and see who is telling the truth here, or who, they're probably both telling what they think is the truth, but who's right. Last terrible news, but I don't think so terrible. There's been there's a 107% tariff on pasta coming from Italy. And the reason is that Italy had participated in a very gigantic dumping of pasta to try to wipe out American manufacturers.
Right.
They were sending it over here at lower than cost to try to wipe us out. Now, I don't know why we can't fix it with our good friend who's the prime minister of Italy, his good friend who's the prime minister of Italy.
Right.
But we put a 107% tariff on top. First of all, there's a 92% anti-dumping tariff on pasta made in Italy.
Yeah.
And then at the 15% normal tariff. So it ends up being 107% tariff. So these companies in Italy say they're going to stop sending pasta to the United States. Well, I mean, we make a lot of pasta in the United States, us Italian Americans and others. And I don't know, you guys wouldn't have pizza if it wasn't for us. Italian Americans discovered pizza. I mean, the Italians would do a lot of things with bread and put tomato sauce on it and cheese and all kinds of stuff. But the whole idea of the pizza thing that's become worldwide started in America. There's a big dispute as to where. Some say New Haven, Connecticut. That's what I believe. Of course, some say New York, and there's a claim for some city in Pennsylvania. But there's no doubt it was developed here in the United States. So I don't know. Give our there's no magic in making pasta. You don't need. I think you have to be at least some Italian, like Italian or Italian American. But Italian Americans are now second, third, and fourth generation. So I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't screw around with all this dumping stuff and trying to screw Italian American companies if you want us to love you, Italy. So I mean, you can see I'm not like crazy obsessed against tariffs like the Wall Street Journal. If they're screwing around with a big tariff on our pasta companies and trying to ruin them with 100% tariff, well, screw you. I'm American. And Americans discovered pizza, developed pizza. Italian Americans, to be specific. Americans that came from Italy, probably it was the first generation who came over who did it, but they're the ones who got the thing that's worldwide. It's like a lot of people came to America, but the guy who discovered it was Christopher Columbus. Because that's the one that they all listened to. Well, the thing they all bought was our pizza, not yours. And now you make our pizza.
Right.
And we do a better job in New York. Last thought, the GOP has a real problem with women. And the last election, it turned out that the Democrats have a big problem with men and we have a big problem with women. But there are 8 million more women voters. So we better straighten out our problem with women. I don't know what it is, but I'm not even sure we do. But this one poll says we do. So I like to pay attention to these things. So we'll be back tomorrow. We'll be back at, we're back at 7 o'clock. We'll be here at 8 on X. We'll be on X for both. And we'll be on Lindell TV at 7. And remember, Thursday noon, we're going to release our first Common Sense, and then we're going to do one. We're going to start off doing once a week. So, and the purpose of it is so we can go into a little bit more depth on the history of some of these subjects. Like, first one is the gambling situation, which now has spread from basketball to baseball, and then we'll do one. We plan to do one on anti-Semitism. We'll do one on all of the anti-Christian behavior that's going on throughout the world. We'll do one on the status of Ukraine and Russia and the history of it, very quickly to catch you up on it. So we see what the obstacles are to peace, things like that.
Right.
And we'll do some through interviews and we'll do some through analysis. And this way we'll have a chance to give you more of the background of the things we report on, because we're limited, even though it is 2 hours, we're limited in what we can. We stretch it out with Saga time sometimes to 3, but we're limited in Saga time to give you all the details. And I want you to make your own decisions. I want you to hear the basis on which we come to a conclusion, so you can say, oh yeah, Giuliani's right about that or he's wrong. That's what this country's about. That's what I grew up. That's the country I grew up in, debating, liberals and conservatives debating with each other.
Right.
Not talking to each other. So I'm capable of giving you the other side. So, and you're capable of finding it. So when we had Common Sense, it was extraordinarily popular until YouTube banned us.
We're getting it back.
Unconstitutionally and illegally banned us, as they did many others. And then we reestablished ourselves.
Yeah. 700 and something thousand last night on X alone.
Yeah. So there.
Let's see how we do.
I don't know why I keep doing that tonight, but God bless the people of Israel and people of Ukraine and the people of sub-Saharan Africa. Let's figure out what's going on there and get it under control, huh? And I think those countries where China and Russia have made inroads, we got a great chance with them, because I think they realize, some of them realize, that they made a deal with the devil. I know that. And of course, pray for our president. Very, very tough times we're going through. It's remarkable how much he's gotten accomplished. Remarkable. So pray for him. Pray for his health and his safety and his wisdom. And of course, on Veterans Day, thank you to all of those and those families who have served, because the family served also our country, because that's why we're here. We live in a very evil world that's wanted to destroy us from the time we started as a country. They want to destroy us now because we stand for good. And the only reason we're here is because we always had people who want to lay down our lives for us. So God bless them. And God bless America. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze,